Hello, everyone. This week, we're going to be building our first lab around some cybersecurity concepts. Each week, we're going to delve into a new concept. This week will be random and good passwords. So we all know that a password, such as the word password or some common dictionary term, nowadays probably not a good idea, and it's often recommended that people use randomly generated passwords. So either using random numbers, random letters, or symbols. So what we want to do this week is tie in some of our learnings from Python. So if statements, code blocks, for loops and while loops, and functions, and build a password generator. This is kind of a simple cybersecurity topic. I know it's not super exciting this week, but this will get you the hang of building some functions in Python, building some good user interfaces at the command prompt level. Oftentimes, you'll find cybersecurity tools. You run them in a shell, and in text, they still look really good. So you want to build good user interfaces. So we're going to tie all that together and build a nice little application to generate a random password. So every week, I always want to show you the solution first so you know what you're building. So let's go ahead and run it. Python. So here I have the solution file, and it says, welcome to the ultimate password generator. How long do you want the password? So how long should the password be? I'm going to type in 10 because I want it to be 10 characters long. Should it use uppercase letters? So we're going to ask the user if they want to use uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. You can say yes to all of them, no to all of them, but let's say for here, yes, I want uppercase letters, so I'm going to type in 1. If the user types in 0, that'll represent no. For lowercase letters, no, let's say I don't want those. So 0. Numbers, yes. And symbols, absolutely, I want some symbols. So after I hit enter, we're going to say generating password just to make it look like it's taking a really long time to do all this work. And then we're going to display the new password to the user. And if you notice, I'm going to highlight here my new password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 characters long. So essentially, your program is going to generate a password based on how long the user requests the password to be, whether or not to use uppercase letters, whether or not to use lowercase letters, whether or not to use numbers, whether or not to use symbols, and it will output your password to the screen. So let's look at some code because we always want to have an idea of what we're writing, and I have pushed and committed a template to this week's GitHub repository. So I'm going to switch over here to generatepassword.py. Now I'm going to give us a little more room here. All right, so this code, I've made a lot of comments in the code to help guide you. But first, we need to import libraries needed for this lab. So both the function or the chapter on functions in Automate the Boring Stuff, as well as my video for the week talks about imports. So we're going to be using two imports this week, random for random characters and string, which I'm not going to tell you exactly what we're going to how we're going to access the items in string, but I kind of want you to figure it out. I put a link in the code. So this allows us to access a couple functions, and don't worry, you'll know what to use. So first, we want to generate a password. So the task I've given you this week is to generate a password using a function. So I'm going to scroll down to the end of the code first, because if you remember, we need to define the function before we use it. And this is where the program starts, right now in the template at line 37, where we print a welcome message. So oftentimes when you're building good user interfaces, blocks are used in command prompts or in shells. So because characters are evenly spaced, I can put equal signs or dashes to make a very clear title. And within that title, I just say, welcome to the Ultimate Password Generator. So in our main program, after we print the title, you're going to ask the user how long of a password they want in terms of number of characters. So you're going to write a piece of code that will take some input from the user. Remember that input will be a string, so you'll want to save that string as an integer into a variable, and that will determine how long of a password you're going to create. And then you're going to ask the user 4 questions. If they want to use uppercase numbers or uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. And you're going to do that in separate input statements. And I said here, just like I just talked to before, remember to properly handle variable types. So if you recall, input takes a string from a user, but maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you want a different type, so you might need to convert that. And you're going to save those to some variables and write that code right here. So you can replace these lines that say write some code here. Those are just placeholders for you. Now, call the generate password function. So this is where we're going to call the function. Now I put it down here, generate password, and I put a note. You will have to pass arguments into the generate password function below. So right now the generate password function has no parameters, so you can't pass any arguments. So you're going to have to do 2 things. One, we're going to go back up and talk about defining the generate password function, but you're going to have to pass those inputs that you took from the user into the function as arguments to the parameters that you've defined. So remember, we took in 5 things. We took in how long the password should be. We took in whether or not you want uppercase letters. We took in whether or not you want lowercase letters. We took in whether or not the user wants numbers, and then symbols. So there's 5 things that you're going to have to pass in. So let's go back up to your function definition, and the template starts at line 17, def generate password. I have not defined your function parameters for you. That is for you to define. So we're going to begin our code block starting in line 18. Now, I've defined 2 variables for you. You don't have to use them. If you do not wish to use them, in my solution, I created them just because I thought it was easier to store it that way. So the first one, chars, represents the characters that the user wishes to choose from. Now, there is and I talk about this a little later, there's a function in Python called random.choice, which will allow you to select a single character or a single value from a list, so a single character from a string, a single value from a list. So using that concept, you can use the characters variable to store all the various characters. Now, uppercase letters represent A through Z, all uppercase. Lowercase letters represent A through Z, all lowercase. Symbols in this case, Python defines symbols in its ASCII constants as open bracket, closed bracket, $, etc., etc. And numbers obviously represent numbers. So, and by the way, new password is just a placeholder variable for the new password. So if we jump down to line 23, then what we want to do is add, based on the user's feedback, so in line 27 I said write some code here, the complete set of possible characters the user would like to use. Now, if we go to this URL, oh no, I hit Internet Explorer. Oh well, let's just pretend I'm using something else. There's a website here with common string operator constants. So I'm going to show you right here, well, there's ASCII.lowercase. That represents a string containing all the lowercase letters. String.ASCII uppercase, that's all the uppercase letters. Digits, 0 through 9. And looks like punctuation represents a bunch of symbols. So those might be good to use. Now, you don't have to use these if you wouldn't like to, but Python has them predefined, so why not? And what you'll want to do is add those, concatenate those with the empty characters variable that we defined in line 20 of the template. All right, so now we have the possible set of characters the user wants to use. Well, now we have to generate a new password. Well, how do we do that? Well, we learned about loops, and I just told you about random.choice. So you could iterate from 0 up until the number of characters the user wants and concatenate a random character onto the new password variable. That's one option. You're welcome to research other options if you'd like to, but again, I wanted to provide you some starter code here to think about it that way. So, and then finally, obviously, you want to pass the new password to the application where it calls it in line 57 of the template. So I hope I've given you a good starting point for this lab. I defined the parameters that you should think about creating starting on line 6 of the template. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. You know, the first couple labs, I'm going to provide a lot of assistance in terms of writing the code, building this out. I will be providing a little less and less assistance in the lab videos, mainly because you're going to get better at Python as we go along, and you're not going to need it. For now, it's understanding the syntax, understanding some of the libraries. As you're programming and as you're searching the internet, how you don't know a certain constant value, you don't know a certain function value, you're going to figure out what your references are, how to find information about the Python language. You know, it's funny, a professional programmer can use Google for a living, but you wouldn't want your doctor doing that. So, you know, I encourage you to use the internet as your resource. There's absolutely no reason why you can't do your own personal research at any time. I have the same philosophy even during exams. There is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be able to, you know, have the internet at your fingertips in terms of trying to figure out various references. You're learning along the way. So it's an important aspect of coding, knowing where to find information. So I hope as we're going through this, you're able to begin doing that with Python. Again, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. I hope this was helpful, and I will talk to you all soon.